All right, the tensions between the United States and Iran have been building for months, especially over Iran's nuclear program and its growing influence in the Middle East. Talks between Washington and Tehran have moved slowly, with deep mistrust on both sides. US President Donald Trump has added fuel to the situation. Speaking to reporters after meeting American troops at Fort Bragg, President Trump said that a change in Iran's leadership would be the best thing that could happen. He criticized Iran's ruling establishment, saying it has created instability for decades. The remark is significant because US presidents usually avoid openly calling for regime change in another country, especially during sensitive negotiations. At the same time, the United States has confirmed that a second aircraft carrier strike group is being sent to the Middle East. The USS Gerald R will join another US carrier already operating in this region. This means that the United States will soon have two powerful carrier strike groups positioned near Iran, each carrying fighter jets, guided missile destroyers, and thousands of military personnel. It is a clear show of strength. The White House said that the move is intended to protect American interests and give Washington more options if talks with Iran fail. President Trump himself said that the additional forces would be needed in case we don't make a deal. The big question now is whether this is simply pressure tactics designed to push Iran back to the negotiating table, or whether the United States is preparing for possible military action if diplomacy collapses. So far, there has been no formal announcement of any military strike, but the combination of tough language about regime change and increased military deployment has raised concerns globally. For now, diplomacy is still on the table, but tensions are clearly rising, and the coming days will be crucial in determining whether this is strategic pressure or something a lot more serious. Let's talk about this with our guest. Joining us on the show is Major General Shashi Asthana, Senior Defense Expert, former DG Infantry. Ambassador Mahesh Sachdev, former diplomat, also joins us on the broadcast to talk more about this. General Asthana, I'll begin with you, sir. So how are you looking at the situation? Of course, like I said, no ruler or no president in the past has directly gone on to say that a regime change is a must. But of course, Donald Trump is unlike any of the presidents or world leaders that we have seen in the past. He's perhaps letting Iran prepare or let them know that things might change if Iran does not come to the table. But as a matter of fact, historically speaking, General Asthana, the Americans have always had a problem with Iran. You know, whether it was their nuclear ambition or aspiration, or it was, the way they dealt with human rights prevailing in their country. They've always had problems with the Shahs and the Mullahs. Do you think this opportunity is going to be capitalized by the Americans, or are they going to play it safe?
See, as of now, President Trump is following a strategy of maximum pressure by military armada and military deployment and so-called military posturing. Let me, just for your viewers, let me recap the compulsions of President Trump. When Trump withdrew from JCPOA, which is also called as Iran deal, which was signed in 2015 in Obama administration. The criticism was that we are withdrawing from this deal because it does not cover missiles, it does not cover proxies, it only covers the nuclear aspect, because the deal at that point of time said that Iran will not develop and enrich nuclear weapons up to a point that it can make bombs. In the bargain, US will remove sanctions. So now what President Trump did was that he imposed sanctions and he withdrew from the deal. So therefore, for him to go back to a situation when where the negotiations are only on nuclear issue means that he goes back to that deal from where he withdrew. So therefore, unless he secures something which is beyond the nuclear assurance of Iran, he will be seen to be not gaining anything but arming Iran much more than what it was earlier. So that's one part of it. Now with this compulsion, he is trying that with the heavy deployment, maybe Iran will give in. Now let's talk about Iran. See, Iran's compulsions are that they will, under no circumstances, settle down for compromising on the missile development, because they need their basic defense. So as far as they are concerned, talking about missiles is a red line. They are not going to talk about it. And they will continue their missile development. So that is the position of Iran. Now comes the question of regime change. See, from 1979 Islamic Revolution, the idea of regime change was always there in the mind of Americans. They did not speak about it, and as you rightly mentioned, Trump is slightly different. So he spoke blatantly that he wants a regime change. But then the problem is they did try for it. Some of his aides have already spoken that we tightened dollars to Iran so that there is an economic problem and so that there are protests and the protest throws out the regime. But the regime survived those protests, the economic protests. And uh, when President Trump said that, told them that, okay, capture institutions and aid is coming or something like that, what actually he meant, he could not follow it up because the regime was smart enough to overpower the protesters, number one. And number two, the hatred in Iran against America and Israel is more than the anger against Khomeini. So that is the reason where they have miscalculated. So in my opinion, they do not have a clear end state. They have miscalculated their strategy, and they are their aims. The American aims are much more ambitious than what they can achieve. Their aim is that firstly they should not enrich uranium. They should give up all the uranium which they have, the enriched one, and they should also not develop any nuclear arsenal, and they should cap the missiles, and they should also not support the proxies. Now this much is ambitious, and that may perhaps not be possible. Now it comes to the option. If he goes for a war, it is going to be a very it is not going to be cost benefit wise. It doesn't work out for America. They have bases all around. Israel is nervous, and so are the other allies of Americans. And Iran has some powerful missiles which can perhaps create tremendous amount of damage to Americans. Even their aircraft carriers are not safe because of the kind of some of the hypersonic missiles which Iran has been able to muster during this period. So under these circumstances, President Trump has a problem and a dilemma that his so-called very high pressure and very high armada and posturing may not work. But at the same time, that is why he's keeping the option of talks open, that maybe that Iran regime softens up and he gets a face saver. So basically, his face saver at best can be that Iran assures him that, okay, no more nuclear this thing, and maybe some kind of deal that, okay, some statement that, okay, we will not develop missiles beyond this portion or this range or beyond this capability or something like that. Now that is what can give some kind of face saver to Trump. I don't think he is going to attack Iran physically. At best, it can be standoff attacks, and standoff attacks of the type which were done earlier, and thereafter some kind of announcement which he did last time, just to cover his adventurism in some manner or the other, or justify it to his domestic audience. Vineet.
All right. So breaking news coming in, Marco Rubio has criticized the United Nations, saying it has failed to handle major global conflicts.